Okay, so this is gonna be a crazy FNAF theory, right? What if the guards, like all the guards, are actually the FNAF 4 bullies? Okay, so one of my like big pieces of evidence in this is just like colors and stuff, right? So like, you know, Michael, right? You have him in a gray shirt, right? In FNAF 4. Like, you know, FNAF 1 is a lot of grays, you know, a lot of blacks and stuff. And then you have, you know, Bonnie Bully, who would be Jeremy. And you have Chica Bully, who would be Fritz, I think. And you know, they're wearing a red and blue shirt, right? You know, FNAF 2, I think, is kind of like, you know, a lot of reds and a lot of blues, right? In my opinion, kind of, right? And then you have Freddy Bully, who I'm just gonna call Gabriel for simplicity. He's wearing green. I think that's the most obvious one, other than Michael. Because, like, you know, FNAF 3 is very green and stuff, right? And I think, other piece of evidence is that the missing children, some of them, share the names of the FNAF 4 bullies, right? You know, you have Fritz and Jeremy, and Gabriel, right? If we're assuming that Freddy Bully is named Gabriel, right? You know, maybe that's why William killed those kids, was because they shared the names of the FNAF 4 bullies, right? And then I think, like, Susie... I do think Susie probably was the first to be killed out of the 5 missing children, right? And that she might have just been, like, a test run, I guess, kind of, for William. But then after he killed Susie... then it was kind of like, oh yeah, kill kids with the same names as the people who killed my son, right? And then, but with Cassidy, I have a separate theory that I want to talk about in another video, and that is that what if, this is a big what if Cassidy is actually Michael's stepsister? But yeah, I'll talk about that in the later video. I think that's about it for this theory. So yeah, bye. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about my Cassidy is Michael's stepsister's theory, right? And how I think it just kind of like helps the lore out and like helps the story and kind of helps Cassidy be like an actual character or whatever, right? Right, so like, you know, you have Cassidy and you have Michael, right? Michael and like Mrs. Afton and William, you know, they get divorced, obviously, after William is like suspected of being the guy who caused the missing children's incident, right? They get divorced. Michael gets a new stepdad, right? Or like maybe it's just her boyfriend, but for simplicity's sake, we're just gonna say stepdad, right? You know, she, you know, finds a guy, and this guy is Cassidy's dad, right? And so, you know, Michael, it gets close with Cassidy, right? And like, you know, thinking like how badly he treated Dave, right? He treats Cassidy really, really well, right? William sees this, gets really, really mad. Like, you know, he's seething, right? Thinking about how, like, Michael is treating this girl who he barely even knows way better than he ever did Dave, right? And so, you know, William decides that, hey, I'm gonna kill this kid. And I'm gonna kill her in the most brutal way possible, right? And so, you know, he takes her to Freddy's. If you subscribe to the theory that, like, Chica's, what is it? The Toy Chica's high school years, like, those are, like, it's saying, like, how William, you know, kidnapped all the kids or whatever. You know, he takes her when she's, you know, walking over to school or whatever, right? Or something like that. And so he does that, right? He takes her to Freddy's, and then he puts her in the Fredbear suit, or the Golden Freddy suit, or whatever you want to call it, right? And then she gets spring locked and drowns in a pool of her own blood. So yeah, I think that, like, I think it gives a little more character to Cassidy, right? And also, I think that if you subscribe to the theory that Old Man Consequences is Michael, then, like, I think that's also, you know, neat. But yeah, I think this theory there's not a lot of evidence for it. I think that it just works really well for the story, right? And like honestly, like I'm probably just gonna like headcanon it, I guess now that like yeah, Cassidy is Michael's stepsister. Guys, I have a new midnight Modorist theory, right? Okay, this kind of goes along with like my previous video about how Cassidy is Michael's stepsister or whatever. So, right, so Orange Man is Michael's stepdad. You know, he's an abusive guy, an abusive drunk, probably after Cassidy's death happened, right? And so he takes it out on Michael, right? What if where Michael goes is the sister location bunker, right? And that's what the mound is, right? It's a sister location bunker, right? And then the thing that left the, you know, the animatronic more footprints outside of the window is Shadow Freddy, right? Because we know from FNAF 3, from Follow Me, Shadow Freddy is shown to do William's bidding, right? And then like in Orange Man, right, says, you know, he's going to that place again. So, you know, I think we can assume that, like, you know, this has happened before. Michael has gone to the sister location bunker before, right? And then, you know, the person watching TV is like his mom, right? Mrs. Afton, right? Or I guess in this point in the timeline it'd be like Mrs. Schmidt, Miss Schmidt. I don't even know, but yeah, I like, this is a crazy theory. But like, maybe it's true. Okay, so I've had this thought for a while now, but I've been thinking about it more recently, and that is that it was so obvious since the first game that Foxy caused the bite of 87, right? Like, we should have known that since the first game, right? The evidence was all over the place. Like, Pirates Cove was out of order. Foxy, like, his like teeth were like sharp, which like prime frontal lobe biting material, honestly. Like, it's so weird to me that we questioned that it was anyone else, especially anyone for like the second game, like any of the toy animatronics, really. Like, I'll be honest with you, for the longest time I thought it was Mangle. I thought Mangle did it and that Jeremy was the victim, right? I'm now realizing it was definitely Foxy, right? I personally don't think the answer ever changed. I think it was always Foxy did it and an employee was the one that got bit. And then obviously in FNAF 2 that employee was given a name, but it was probably Jeremy. But yeah, I don't think the answer has ever changed. I think it was always going to be Foxy. I think Scott knew that it was Foxy since the first game. Like, and I really think that we should have just, like, known that it was Foxy since the first game. Guys, hear me out on this theory, okay? So, Five Nights at Freddy's, right? I'm kind of thinking that since Help Wanted, all of the games past that are meant to take place in a different universe than the first 6 games, right? I know that is a crazy idea, right? I'll be honest with you, I'm probably wrong, but also I feel like there is just like a lot of evidence that points towards like that idea, right? Like in Help Wanted, right? Tape Girl, she like made it. Like, she said that, like, you know, those first 6 games are absolutely games in Help Wanted onwards, right? Like, obviously, you know, you have FNAF 1 through 3 as mini games in Help Wanted. But then also you have, like, the Scrap Baby plushes and the sister location bunker and, like, all of that, right? Or, and, like, the Fun animatronics or whatever, right? So, right, so, like, I really, really think that maybe the first 6 games are just supposed to be games, and then events similar to them may have happened, or maybe it's just William killed 5 kids, and then that's it, right? I don't know. I don't really have like a fleshed out theory for this. I just kind of like wanted to like put this theory like forth because like I feel like it was an idea around the time that Help Wanted came out, but then people just kind of like brush it off, right? Like as soon as, because like I just don't think people like that idea. I don't even think it's that bad of a thing, right? I want there to be a distinction between the first 6 games and Help Wanted onwards, right? And I think that making those first 6 games a separate continuity is a great way to do that, because then the way Steel Wool, you know, can do kind of their own thing, right? So like, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I do kind of have like an idea of like what I would have done with the FNAF franchise after FNAF 6. So like, if you guys want to see that video, let me know. So yeah. Guys, I want to talk about Fazbear Frights and like a theory that I have on it. Before I say anything though, I should preface this. I have not read a single Fazbear Frights book. I just know things from like summaries and like YouTube analysis videos. So like, if this theory is just like cannot be right, it is like completely wrong, let me know, please. I just think this is an interesting idea, right? I think maybe in the Fazbear Frights universe, William Afton might deadass just be like just some kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a monster, right? Because like, you like Into the Pit, right? The story and all that, right? It is probably supposed to be time travel, right? At first, I thought that like it was like the pit was like agony or whatever, right? And it was like it held a memory or whatever, right? Whatever, agony, ghost magic, right? But then in like the interactive novel, and I think also the game, kinda, it implies that no, that isn't a thing. Like, it's actual time travel. So then who is the Yellow Rabbit? William Afton still. And like, he might just deadass be like an evil like being or some shit. Like he just like shapeshift or something. I don't know, right? Like, it's an interesting idea. Because, like, also you have, like, in the story, the man in room... I don't remember the name of it. But, like, the story where it's, like, oh, UCN or whatever, right? You have that story, right? And, like, it's always, like, oh, he has an evil presence about him. When they talk about, like, William Afton in that story, like, he might just be, like, I don't even know, like, just a monster. Like, this evil being. I don't know. If there's something that just like completely contradicts this theory, let me know. Guys, I know this has been said 100 times before by 100 different people, but like the FNAF lore and stuff has just gotten really, really just like not good anymore. As far as I know though, like Secret of the Mimic was a pretty good game. As far as I know, I haven't played it. I want to play it though. But yeah, but like, it just, FNAF lore just is not good anymore. It's just not, right? Big thing, Insecurity Breach, right? I don't think Burn Trap is a canon character anymore. Like, I think the drawing in Ruin, I think that's just Gregory's fan art of Springtrap, because like, like, Five Nights at Freddy's games exist in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe now, right? That's a thing even in like the game's continuity, not even just in like the book's continuity or whatever, with like Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex. Five Nights at Freddy's games exist in the game, the Security Breach and like Ruin and all that. So those drawings, Gregory just likes Five Nights at Freddy's. Gregory just wanted to make fan art, bro, of Springtrap, and that's what that is. Like, and like, I think Burn Trap was probably supposed to be a canon character at one point in development of Security Breach, but because Steel Wool but because Scott didn't tell Steel Wool what to do properly, they just couldn't do it. And it's so weird, and I wish FNAF lore gets better and stuff, and Scott tells, I think, as far as I know, Secret of the Mimic was good, so, yeah, I don't know, I just hope it gets better. Guys, which FNAF games do you consider mainline, right? There's been, like, a thing that I've thought about before, right? You know, because I think FNAF is at that point where we can, like, really look at which ones are, like, you know, mainline, side games, and spin-offs, right? FNAF 1 through 6, obviously, those 6 games are mainline, right? Where I kind of, like, this might be a hot take, I kind of think Help Wanted and Help Wanted 2 are side games, right? Like, before Help Wanted 2 came out, I would have said that, yeah, Help Wanted is a mainline FNAF game. But now that, like, we have it, and it has, like, a direct sequel, I kind of think it would count as a side game, right? Not only does it just have, like, a direct sequel or whatever, the gameplay is also, like, really different, right? It's a minigame collection, and it came out for VR first. The game, the controls are, like, completely different from, like, any other FNAF game, right? Unless you're playing on flat screen. It's a side game, in my opinion. Other side games, you know, UCN, I think, is one. And then, obviously, right, you have Security Breach, that's mainline, and then Secret of the Mimic, because those are mainline. Spin-offs, though, I think FNAF World, that's a pretty clear spin-off, right? And then Into the Pit, I also would consider a spin-off. And then also all of, like, the, like, you know, Space 2, Fury's Rage, and Space 3 are obviously also spin-off games. And then I also include, like, the Fanverse games, right? Pop Goes Arcade, My Pop Goes, and then, like, any game coming out after that, right? Too, like, any future games, right, that are coming out, like, Five Nights at Candy's 4, and, like, Pop Goes Evergreen. Those are spin-offs. Like, those are, in my opinion, those are official FNAF games now. Like, when you boot up Pop Goes Arcade, it literally says it is a spin-off of Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, it's, yeah, they're spin-off games, in my opinion. So, like, yeah. I just, want to talk about this, because it's just a topic that interests me. Let me know what you consider as mainline and spin-off and side games.